Somewhere in Pennsylvania, a fire has been burning underground since 1962. It split open roads, and it poisoned the air. One by one, an entire town walked away, leaving set tables, diaries mid-sentence, lives frozen in place. Not one of them ever came back. The government erased the zip code, but the town is still here, and whatever remains inside it is not finished. A postal worker's stamp once marked the end. In 2002, the United States Postal Service erased the town's identity when it canceled zip code 17927. The post office itself, a squat brick building that had anchored Main Street for generations, had been torn down 5 years earlier. Official records closed the book, but the place remains, a name stripped from the map, and a real, physical emptiness endures. Walking these streets today, nothing moves. Mailboxes stand with their doors ajar, rusted and empty. The road bends past cracked sidewalks, but every house number leads only to grass and concrete. Where a school once rang with the noise of children, windows gape, and the only sounds are wind and the distant low rumble from beneath the earth. The air carries a faint chemical tang, a reminder that something still burns far below. Aerial photographs taken in 1984 show a grid of blackened scars, the charred outlines of homes and businesses. From above, the burn patterns cut through the town like a warning. Foundations sit exposed, their walls long vanished, while tree roots twist through what used to be living rooms and kitchens. The grid of streets remains, but the addresses are ghosts. No deliveries, no visitors, no return. Even the boundaries have blurred. Grass grows over curbs, and nature slowly reclaims the lots, but the silence is not peaceful. There are no birds, no distant voices, only the hollow echo of a community wiped away, not by time alone, but by a decision, stamped and filed, to let the void stand. The government declared an end, but the emptiness lingers. What could force a town to vanish so completely that even its name was revoked? The answer lies somewhere in the silence that follows. A single diary, its pages yellowed and edges curling, rests in the Centralia Historical Society archive. The cover bears the name Mary Umlauf, and inside, her looping script records the rhythm of ordinary days, school lessons, Sunday dinners, whispers about smoke drifting from the hillside. In July 1979, Mary wrote of a parade on Main Street, the sound of the band echoing between rows of painted porches. The next entry, dated weeks later, describes the first rumors of families packing up, the sense that something invisible was spreading underground. Her sister Anne would later say the diary was the only thing she took when they left. A basement in what used to be the Welmer house held a different kind of record. Tucked between crumbling boxes, a set of receipts lay undisturbed for decades, a grocery slip from 1982 and a faded electricity bill from 1974. The bill, stamped paid in red, lists the address, now vanished, from county tax rolls. Carl Womer's name appears in the ledger, a reminder of the coal miner who watched the lights flicker for the last time before the power company cut the line. Mark Wimmer, the youngest son, would later return with a camera and a notebook, recording the emptiness where his childhood once lived. In a file drawer at the county office, a utility shutoff notice addressed to the Horvath family still bears the signature of the Public Works Director. The date, September 1983, marks the final step before the house was condemned. Peter Horvath remembers the hiss of the gas line as it was capped, the silence that followed. His daughter Emily, the last child born in the borough, keeps the notice in a folder of family papers, a bureaucratic epitaph for a home that no longer exists. Each artifact, Mary's diary, the Wimmer receipts, the Horvath shutoff slip, anchors the story in real lives. They are not relics of disaster, but fragments of routine, a list of groceries, a note about a school dance, a warning that the heat will soon be gone. The belongings left behind do not explain why the town emptied so suddenly. Instead, they raise a quieter question. How could so much daily life be abandoned in such a hurry with no chance to return? The answers, if they exist, are buried with the objects waiting for someone to listen. The fire began in May of 1962, smoldering beneath the town landfill and slipping down into the coal seams far below. At first, the smoke was little more than a nuisance. By July, flames had surfaced on Locust Street, destroying 7 houses in a single week. Archival dispatch logs from the county sheriff's office list those addresses, each marked as a structural loss. The local council hired Bridie Incorporated to try to contain the underground blaze, pouring $2.3 million into drilling, excavation, and slurry injections. None of it worked. The fire moved faster than the crews could chase it, tunneling under foundations, sending up plumes of sulfurous gas that seeped into basements and schoolyards. By 1963, the Pennsylvania Department of Health issued an emergency advisory warning residents to avoid outdoor activity. Hospital records from that summer show a 30% increase in respiratory admissions. Cases included asthma, bronchitis, and unexplained coughing that left families uneasy. Dr. Susan Kelly, a public health researcher, would later cite carbon monoxide readings of 15 parts per million, well above safe limits for a home. The town's water wells, tested in 1975, revealed arsenic and lead levels that exceeded federal guidelines. The soil itself became suspect, as if the fire was poisoning the ground from below. Attempts to stop the fire continued through the 1970s, but the costs mounted and success never came. Payroll at Mann's Mine ended in October of 1979, the final shutdown notice stamped and filed away. Businesses shuttered. The school's last yearbook listed only a handful of students. In 1981, a sinkhole opened suddenly on Route 61, nearly swallowing a teenager as the earth gave way. The event was more than a warning. It was a sign that the land itself could no longer be trusted. By the early 1980s, relocation became the only answer. Federal and state funds were set aside for buyouts, and property deeds began to transfer to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The evacuation was not a panicked flight, but a slow, bureaucratic unraveling. Each step, every fire report, every contaminated well, every hospital admission became another thread in the evidence that life here was no longer possible. What remains is not just the echo of disaster, but the paper trail of a community forced to choose between staying and survival. Official records are not the whole story. In the county archives, the 1984 evacuation orders arrive blacked out. Whole paragraphs are missing, street names and coordinates erased under thick lines of ink. The reason for these redactions is listed only as public safety. Even decades later, requests for the full documents return the same answer: denied. The missing details leave a gap no one has filled. Another document, the 1975 impact study, is referenced in council minutes and budget ledgers, but the study itself is gone. The cover page survives, stamped with the Bureau of Mines seal, but the body of the report has vanished from every official file. No summary, no findings, not even a page number remains. Some say the study warned of dangers beyond the fire, ground instability, toxic exposure, or something else. Without the text, it is only rumor. In the cemetery ledger, 9 names appear between 1962 and 1968, each under the age of 45. The causes of death are listed as unspecified respiratory failure. Coroner's inquest notes mention possible gas inhalation, but no autopsies were ever made public. The families requested privacy, and the files remain sealed. The numbers are not large, but in a town this size, they echo. In 1976, residents recalled that every clock in town stopped at 3:44 a.m. That detail passed down as a kind of folk memory, repeated in interviews and written in the margins of a diary. No explanation was ever found. Decades later, explorers return with cameras and recorders. In footage from the decade beginning 2010, a shadow slips across a hallway in the ruins of the post office. The audio picks up a low, metallic hum near the old school, followed by a burst of static. The explorers describe the sensation of being watched, a chill that lingers long after they leave. Folklore fills the spaces left by missing files. Some say the fire was only the beginning. Others whisper about the land itself or about things best left unspoken. The town's story resists closure. The more is uncovered, the more questions remain. In the end, nothing explains why so much was left behind, and why the silence feels so unsettled. Even now, the empty streets remain untouched, windows clouded, clocks forever stopped. The silence here warns us, what we leave behind never truly disappears. As new towns face disaster or decline, Centralia's ghost reminds us how quickly certainty can vanish. Some mysteries linger long after the last footsteps fade.